Well, breaking news, Florida's House of Representatives has just voted to ban fluoride in drinking water across the state. This after the Senate voted to do so, and now it's expected to go to the governor's desk where he is expected to sign that into law statewide. No more fluoride in drinking water. Second state to do that after Utah. Leading up to this in Florida, activists across the state were pushing for municipalities to shut down fluoride in drinking water, and a lot of those municipalities did so. We Are Change Orlando was an activist group that was leading this charge. And Justin Harvey from We Are Change testified in front of Orange County commissioners there in Orlando, pushing Orlando to do the same. Take a look.
Over the last 6 months, 23 cities and counties have ended the practice of water fluoridation. 16 of those 23 decisions were unanimous. This came after a federal court ruled that fluoride poses an unreasonable risk to pregnant women and children, specifically citing lower IQ, and shortly after our state surgeon general advised all communities across the state to end fluoridation. I commend all those local municipalities and counties that were brave enough to make a bold decision, get out in front of this, and err on the side of caution, protecting their public. We elected them to make the difficult decisions, not just the easy ones. They acknowledge the growing health concerns and most of all the informed consent, because it's not right to force a medicine via the water supply, which is what fluoride is. And there's many inexpensive ways to get it, unlike 50 years ago. For many people it became a no-brainer, hence the unanimous decisions. It was exciting to watch all the other cities, but meanwhile I'm embarrassed for my own county.
And here to join me now is Justin Harvey himself from We Are Change Orlando. Justin, what's your reaction to this vote in the Florida House on fluoride?
Yeah, really exciting day for all of us down here in Florida fighting this, not just for the last, 6 months, but for years, really, trying to educate about the harms that fluoride can cause by ingesting it. We're not anti-fluoride, so to speak. It's this going into our bodies and just this informed consent concept. And we're just really happy to see the 24 communities do it before the state ban. And now, just as of this morning, it looks like we'll have the state basically outlawed across the board as long as the governor signs it soon.
Wow, that's incredible. Why do you think this happened in Florida?
Well, part of it has to do with our state surgeon general, right? He deserves a lot of credit. You also have to give credit to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. But then beyond that, how come all the other states didn't do it? It's because of these dedicated residents there that we have that stepped up in local communities and spoke at these city council meetings and basically said, we're not going to stand for this. And we would like you to heed the Surgeon General guidance. And Florida basically sees the momentum of the federal court case and our open-minded Surgeon General, the great Surgeon General that we have. And by doing that, we were able to show the communities, our local communities, that this is the right decision.
Yeah, the Florida Surgeon General Joseph Ladapo, he pushed he put out an advisory in November advising all municipalities in Florida not to fluoridate the water based on all these studies on health risks associated with too much fluoride. This after NBC reported that Utah has become the first U.S. state to ban fluoride in public drinking water. Governor Spencer Cox signed a bill into law March 27th, just last month, prohibiting the addition of fluoride in water systems. And that law goes into effect in about a week, May 7th. Municipalities across the nation are starting to ban fluoride. I just have a report out of Alabama that the Madison community there, Madison Utilities, is going to be banning fluoride in drinking water. I have that article right here. Leave fluoride alone. It sparks controversy. So a lot of people are upset about this. You told me that dentists were bussed in to protest what you were doing to try to keep fluoride.
Yeah, so there's a very powerful, dental and phosphate industry that is really behind this narrative. Their industry is built around this. For those that don't know, it's not naturally occurring fluoride, it's an industrial waste. So that's from the phosphate industry. So they have an interest. But then you have the dental lobby, we just had a big article come out about these individuals. They're using federal funds and parading around not just our state of Florida, but the country, claiming to be independent scientists, using CDC funds and acting on behalf of the dental lobby to try to squash local community decisions. So it was just crazy to see this guy, Dr. Johnny Johnson, follow us around all these meetings and try to keep the medication in our water. And he's not even from most of these areas. He's up from South Dakota down to the tip of Florida, fighting to keep a neurotoxin now in our water supply. It's really mind blowing.
Wow. Well, Alabama talking about banning fluoride in that municipality. They said Alabama Department of Public Health has been fluoridating water for 70 years, as has, I believe,
Yeah.
most of the United States. And so, I mean, it's kind of been a consensus for decades that this is not only safe, but necessary for our health. So, why are you saying otherwise now?
Yeah, it's kind of like the canary in the coal mine was there are people been saying it for some time, but this federal court case that was laid down last fall really solidified what people had been saying. We'd had a Harvard journal say it was a neurotoxin in the early 2000s. There have been studies out of in other countries, but for our federal court to just confirm what the conspiracy theorists had been saying about fluoride for decades was very just pretty groundbreaking. And I think that's what the momentum has swelled around. So there's kind of always been these ideas. It's just finally been corroborated in like an official capacity. And then you couple that with RFK Jr. and Joe Latipo. I mean, it's really waking. You know what I also have to give a lot of credit to is this post-COVID world and the mentality. I can't tell you how many council members have said, oh, forcing a medication on people. Did we just do that? Maybe it didn't go so well. I get that concept now. That's what fluoride is. Whether you call it a toxin or a medication, it's essentially both in their eyes. And it's not right to force that on people, whether you think it's good for teeth or not.
I remember a few months ago, maybe it was a year ago, that a suburb of Charlotte banned fluoride as well. And one of the city council
Yes.
members said at that time, his argument at that time and why he voted to ban it was there's so many options for getting fluoride if you do want it in your toothpaste, going to the dentist, in your mouthwash, right?
Yeah, that was the biggest thing too. One of our arguments is the whole reason city governments got into the dental business was because there weren't widely available ways to get it like there are today. So I think once also when that light bulb, it's like, why are we spending tens of thousands of dollars on this highly corrosive chemical to medicate our public when there's ways for people to get this? We don't add statins or any vitamins or anything else to the water for people's health, for their ears, for their eyes. Why are we treating people's mouth? Just
Mm.
personal responsibility. Take care of your own, brush your teeth, do what you need to do, and just leave it up to people if they want to consume fluoride.
And the truth is, drinking water barely touches your teeth. It mainly touches your digestive system, your
Yeah.
whole body.
And how
And
many
that's
people
where it's
are
not supposed to be.
and how many people are drinking from the tap anymore, right? We all know kids are drinking these sugary drinks, and most people are drinking, whether it be bottled water or just no one's drinking out of the tap. That's not like it used to be.
Well, maybe we'll be able to drink out of the tap again if they get rid of these chemicals.
I hope so. This is one of many, but this is a great start. This is the one that's purposefully put in, right? I tell people we can go after all the stuff that leaches in next, like the PFAS and all the other stuff.
You mentioned how a lot of the corporate news, when they bring up the fluoride topic, they mention this is a naturally occurring thing. Well, here's the thing: if fluoride is natural and it's already in water, why are you adding more? That's my question. But
Yeah.
Children's Health Defense also said to back up what you said, but fluoride added to town water supplies is far from natural. They said naturally occurring fluoride is calcium fluoride. The fluoride added to water is a byproduct of phosphate fertilizer production sold off by chemical companies to local water departments across the country. Yikes.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's been one of our biggest misconceptions and gripes about this is they'll go into this saying it's naturally occurring. And while there is naturally occurring fluoride in all of our groundwater, sometimes in Central Florida it's around 0.2, they add an additional to bring it up to that 0.7. And they're adding a chemical waste from this industry. It's not naturally occurring fluoride. It's far from it. It actually eats through steel, glass, concrete. It's had spills before, and they have to call out hazmat to clean it up.
Yikes.
So it's very dangerous stuff. And, a lot of reporters they don't know. They're Googling what is fluoride. They put that little blurb in, right? And then they go on to talk about it. But most people are just not educated. We've had council members look at us and go, I had no idea that it was an acid, that we were adding to the water. And this is what the
Mm.
material safety data sheet says: highly corrosive, poison, danger. Like, it's not, the thing that's in groundwater. It's not a mineral. It's an acid.
It's still a standard thing when you go to the dentist that they treat you with fluoride.
Yeah.
And I'm just so I'm like, okay, people are drinking fluoride every day, and then the dentist is treating you with fluoride. And then there's fluoride in your toothpaste, which little kids get into toothpaste and eat it. That's fairly common. So I'm like, how
Yeah.
much fluoride is everyone getting? That's a little concerning. I know I I would get those fluoride treatments regularly as a kid, but at least I was actually fortunate enough to be raised off grid in the country with a deep well. I was drinking well water my whole
Oh,
childhood.
good, good. Yeah,
But
no one knows those exposure levels, like you said. We're cooking with it, bathing with it. A lot of people think boiling it would get it out. It actually enhances the fluoride content. So if you're boiling tap water, you're raising the fluoride content. So, for people to have to get reverse osmosis and then put a shower filter and jump through all these hoops that many people with low income can't afford, it's just not right. So it's great that we're not going to have this medication coming directly out of our faucet now.
wow, Joseph Ladapo, Florida Surgeon General, he said Floridians should be aware of safety concerns related to systemic fluoride exposure, including adverse effects in children, reducing IQ, cognitive
Yep.
impairment, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. A lot of kids have that. Increased neurobehavioral problems in children whose mothers ingest fluoride during pregnancy. Accumulation of fluoride in the pineal gland, causing sleep cycle disturbance. Skeletal fluorosis, which could increase the risk of bone fracture, potential risk of premature menarche in adolescent girls. I don't know what that is. Maybe you can explain that. And then the last thing he said, potential suppression of the thyroid gland by inhibiting iodine absorption. So those were the things he listed when he said, let's stop doing this fluoride thing.
Yeah, and there's like the biggest rebuttal to that is as well the federal court and what Surgeon General is citing is studies outside the U.S. at high fluoride levels. Well, what's interesting is that also just rebuttal falls on its face flat because he has toured the state since November with a scientist who studied fluoride in the U.S. at low levels and found the exact same thing, lower IQ. So when I look at that and the JAMA studies, you get to a point where it's like if even one iota of these negative health studies are true, you have to give people a choice, right? Where there is risk, it's always been our motto with the vaccine too. You must give people a choice.
Wow. There's a lot of European countries that have already banned fluoride, right?
Yeah, and what that's a great point. Is another misconception is 95% of the world does not fluoridate their water. So they'll point to the sky is falling if we stop in this one local community. And I'm like, well, what about the entire country of Japan and all these Western European countries? And they've either never fluoridated or they've stopped because of this these informed consent and health risk concerns.
Okay, My News 13, a Spectrum News in Florida, they interviewed a local man who said, if you vote to remove fluoride from water, children in this community will have more trips to the dentist, higher cost of health care, more long-term dental health problems, and notably, our kids won't be any smarter. Because
Yeah.
you're talking about IQ, and
Yep.
he's saying, I don't buy it. My kid's not going to get smarter. They're just going to get more cavities. What's your reaction?
Well, I always tell people that myself and others who started avoiding fluoride at all costs 10, 12 years ago, none of us go to the dentist anymore. None of us have cavities. I point to the communities around me that I grew up around that have never fluoridated their water. And the people that live there, the most interesting thing is they'll reach out to me and say, well, how do I get the fluoride out of my water? And I'll say, well, it's funny you say that. You've never had fluoride in your city water. And they're like, really? I always thought I had strong teeth because of fluoridated water. So many people are growing up in non-fluoridated communities and they have strong teeth because they've had good lifestyle and diet habits. That's a bigger factor. There's a lot that goes into it. But I would just point to all the areas that have never done it. We don't have a dental crisis in those areas, and most people can't even name them. They think they don't even know if they're living in one. So where's this sky is falling scenario? That it's really just a last ditch effort to sell us fear to keep up with the current establishment narrative.
So going back to what just happened today with the Florida House passing that fluoride anti-fluoride bill. What's your insight? What's your insight on Governor Ron DeSantis, what he's going to do, and what he's said so far?
So he has called it a forced medication, and he said flat out forced medication is wrong. So I think he has someone that, just like our Surgeon General, understands now that whether it be the COVID vaccine or water fluoridation, you just got to give people a choice. You have to make
Mm.
them aware of the risks and give people a choice. And as we've seen, we had 24 communities remove fluoride from their water since the Surgeon General guidance, but 8 of them elected to keep it in. And that is an example of 3 out of 5 council members having the ability to vote with their personal opinion and force a medication on people with growing risks. And while I'm not a fan of the state taking away local control, that is a scenario where I believe it's okay, because you have to take away a local government's ability to force residents a medicine that can be harming them.
Wow. It wasn't until I left Fox in 2021 that all the viewers started reaching out to me like, Ivory, yeah, you need to look into this, this, and this, because the news has not been addressing a ton of these issues. And so I start looking into things. I guess, people are like, you're going to get red pilled, Ivory. So I looked up, they were in my ear about everything, my viewers were, and so I was like, let me look up the studies on fluoride. Sure enough, there's all these studies on IQ being damaged by fluoride. I looked at studies on, well, what water is the safest. Turns out bottled water, while there are probably plastic particles in it, it's very bottled water. These studies showed is actually quite pure. So I just started drinking a lot of bottled water.
Yeah, and I think it's like half or more of bottled water is not fluoridated. I don't remember. It's like 60-40, one way or the other. So you just have to check. I think Core and Essentia don't have fluoride, but some of those really basic brands, like I think Arrowhead has been caught with like over 1.0 parts per million, which is even higher than the recommended level. So I would
Nice.
just research whichever bottled water you're drinking, if you're not filtering it and carrying it with you day in and day out, which can be a pain.
So you live in an Orlando area where they actually fluoridate the water. So what do you drink?
So I have a whole home filtration system that has like 2 different filters. So it has like a fluoride medium, and then it goes through a separate one. I even recommend to people, if they have the budget, to also put maybe like a reverse osmosis on your drinking water under your sink. Um, but if you don't have the whole home system, how are you filtering your shower water? Because I personally don't want to bathe in all the things that are in our water either. So
Right.
there's some different routes you can go. You can do the whole home, which covers it all, or just at maybe your most important faucets that are being used the most.
Good to know. I'll have to get one of those systems. Well, thank you so much for your insight, Justin. And one last question: what's next in your activism?
It's funny, if they're going to take the fluoride out just overnight, it is going to just shift rapidly into something else. But I would assume it's going to be something to do with the weather modification. If that bill doesn't pass in Florida, we're going to continue to fight that. And I think the next battle is this overarching sort of digital technocracy, smart city agenda that they're trying to push over us. I think that really needs to be addressed. I don't want to end up in a world where you can't leave your house because of the social media post you made or whatnot, and the AI robots guarding the neighborhood entrance. We've really got to work to stop that, and that goes hand in hand with the UN Agenda 2030, the smart cities, all that stuff.
Wow, fascinating. Justin Harvey, we are Change Orlando. I'll link your social medias down below if people want to
Thank
follow
you.
that. All right.
Appreciate that.
See you later. Good luck.
Yeah, thanks for having me.